What's up guys? So my name is Jacob and I live here on the island of Oahu, and tomorrow is going to be my very first day of flight school over at Lanilea Aviation on the South Shore at the Honolulu airport on the south side of the island. And I just kind of wanted to make this channel and this series to document my experience, kind of give you guys an idea of what it's like to become a private licensed pilot, all the way from basically 0 hours through becoming an airline pilot. So here we go. Alright guys, so again my name is Jacob and this is my wife Belle. I'm from North Carolina, she's from a little bit of everywhere. She grew up in the military and her family's currently living in Washington State. And we both live here on Oahu now. And in this video I kind of want to talk about how I decided to become a pilot and the steps that I took to get to this point where tomorrow is my first day of flight school. So I actually first got the idea not too long ago, less than a year ago actually, to become a pilot. I had never thought of it before in my life. I actually was in school with the intentions to become a veterinarian, to be a surgeon for animals, right? And I was working up on the North Shore at a zip line, and I was a tour guide, and one of the buddies that I had that I was working with that day, he was talking about how he was planning to go into the military to become a pilot, and he was talking about all of the great benefits and the lifestyle that pilots get to have, particularly those who work in the airlines. And so it was interesting to me, and I didn't think too much of it, but I went home. And I don't know if YouTube or Google was listening to me or what, but I remember seeing a bunch of videos, or maybe it was always there and I didn't notice it until then. But I started seeing all of these videos about being a pilot or working for airlines, and so I started looking into it a little bit and realized that it was pretty interesting to me, and so I decided to start digging a little deeper and looking at flight schools and about how much they would be. And I realized at that point how expensive it is to become a pilot, and that's one of the main reasons that so many people aren't pilots, and that's creating the shortage that there is now. And so from that point I decided to get a couple of books and kind of just read some basic aviation concepts about the lifestyle of a pilot. I forget the name of the book I read, but there was a book written by a pilot who talked about how he went through flight school and went into the airlines, and he actually decided not to be an airline pilot after working for a regional airline for a couple of years, just because the lifestyle was not best suited for him. So I think I appreciated being able to see his perspective in that the airlines, despite all of their being talked up by a lot of people, there are some people who don't enjoy that lifestyle. So I kind of continued to look at the pros and cons and realized that there are plenty of cons to be an airline pilot, just like any other job, right? And so after a couple of months of just casually, not super intensely, but just casually watching some YouTube videos of either pilots who vlog, like the gentleman who does 74 gear and Captain Joe and people like that, they made it seem super fun and exciting, and you know, they have so much spare time that they can run a YouTube channel and do all these extra fun things. And so I decided to dig a little deeper, and that's when I went and did a discovery flight in a little Cessna 172 down on the South Shore of Oahu with George's Aviation. So the discovery flight that I did there was amazing. It was probably one of the most fun experiences that I've ever had, to be quite honest. I went down there and they hooked me up with a CFI who currently works there. I'll call him Mike. And Mike, he was kind of nervous when I got there because he said the weather was kind of rough up over the mountains where we were supposed to be flying, and my hopes got dashed. You know, he seemed like he was not gonna fly at all that day, and he said, all right, come over here and we'll just kind of look at a map, and you know, we can go walk around the airplane, and at least we'll do the checklist today, and maybe another day we'll do our flight. So he kind of showed me, I believe, I'm probably getting this wrong, but it was some website. It was Sky Vector or Sky Radar or something like that. You know, forgive me, I obviously don't know what I'm talking about there, but it was a cool interactive map for aviators that can view real-time weather and predictions and anything from, you know, the temperature to the dew point to the barometric pressure, and so that was really cool. So the next thing we did is we got our headsets, we walked out to the plane, and again, I've never flown in a small plane like that, and I was just surprised at how small it was. The interior of the 172 is I mean, it's about as long as a regular four-door sedan, but it's almost thinner than that. At least it felt like that to me. Maybe it was just kind of crowded because I'm about 6'1", and the other guy was like oh gosh, he had to be at least 6'3", so we were a couple of pretty big dudes in that little plane. So he walked through the checklist with me, and it was really interesting. We did everything from checking the fuel.
Service water.
Yeah, funny story about that. We were checking the fuel to make sure there was no water, and lo and behold, there was a lot of water in the right wing tank, and we called the mechanic over, and I guess they keep up their aircraft really well because they had said they'd never seen that before, and so we switched aircrafts and kind of reset the checklist and made sure all the lights were working, make sure the engine was working, and he said, well, I've got good news for you. I can look out and see where we're going to be flying, and it looks clear enough that, you know, let's just go head up. So we jumped in the plane and we finished up the checklist. We drove around the hangar and revved the engine just to make sure it wouldn't fail on us, and then he started talking to air traffic control, and 90% of it just went straight over my head, and then he started to take off, and I didn't realize how shaky it would be. We got up to 90 knots, I think. Maybe it was 70. I think it was somewhere 70 or 90 knots, whatever the takeoff speed is for a Cessna 172. I will know that by tomorrow, I promise. And it was so much fun. It felt different taking off. The sensations that your body feels compared to that of when you're riding an airliner are a lot more exaggerated. I wouldn't say that they're different, but you feel them a lot more. We cruised at about 1,500 feet or so, and once we got up and over some Class C airspace, he let me take the controls a little bit, and he had me do a couple of 360-degree turns and practice coordinating my turns with the rudder so that I wasn't slipping. And then we did some touch and goes at another airport, and that was fun as well. And then we got off back to the ground, and we went back to the hangar and talked for a couple more minutes, and from that point on I was sure that that's what I wanted to do. And I know that's kind of the cheesy thing, you know, especially if you watch all of the ATP commercials. You know, oh, I knew from the second that the wheels left the ground. It's really true though. Like once you feel that and you're up in the cockpit, it's so different and it's so much fun. So anyways, that's when I knew for sure that I wanted to at least try to be a pilot and explore it further. Really the only thing at that point that was holding me back was the money. So I continued to talk to the CFI Mike, and he, a couple days later, explained to me that there was about a 2-month wait list there at George's Aviation, and I didn't realize that going into it, but once I found that out, I knew that there was no way I was going to be able to get my license just because of our timing. It wasn't going to work out for us. right at this time. So I called up another couple flight schools and found Lonnie Leah Flight School, and they were just a joy to talk to. They were super nice. They were very patient with me. They answered all of my questions. They even volunteered a lot of information without me really digging too much, but it wasn't unwelcome. It was very, very pleasant. And they have about a 2-week wait list, which was much more
Doable? Feasible?
favorable. That's the word that we're going to use. So it was a lot more favorable for the schedule that we're kind of working with in the timeline. So I said, hey, sign me up, put me on the wait list, and that was about maybe 3 weeks ago or so. And they basically told me to call back every week and just kind of check in with them, make sure that they were still, which I liked. They wanted me to hold them accountable, which was a good sign for me. It showed that, you know, they planned on taking action and following through. So they set me up with a CFI a few days ago, and I have yet to meet him in person, but I talked to him on the phone for a bit, and he's been giving me some suggestions on what I can do to prepare a little bit for the first flight, essentially. And he had some supplies that he recommended I get, and some preparations that I could do. And one of those things was to go ahead and get the King School's private pilot package there that they have online. And basically what it is it's a series of modules where they'll explain some concepts for a few minutes, and then they'll have you answer a short little set of questions, usually no more than like 5, maybe 6 questions at the most, just to show that you have your understanding. And then there's lots of little subsections, and so I'm about 30% of the way through that. I've probably had it, what, 3 or 4 days? Something like that. And it's been really fun. And that's one thing that I've noticed that was different with my college experiences. When I was in a university in Virginia, bless you, I really did not enjoy what I was learning. Really the only class that I enjoyed was philosophy, and that had nothing to do with my major. So I really have enjoyed learning about aerodynamics and about physics and about maps, and there we go. And it's just been super fun so far. But anyways, once you've completed all the modules and answered all of the questions, they are going to give you basically a little certificate of completion and like a recommendation, I think they call it, to the FAA that allows you to take your written exam. And so there's 3 different parts to getting your private license. You have to take a written exam, you have to take an oral exam, and then a practical exam, which is more commonly referred to as a check ride. So anyways, that's kind of been our experience. I'm gonna have Belle share some of her thoughts here in a minute about, you know, how she's felt, what her ideas have been along the process, and yeah, maybe we'll roll some B-roll. We're still trying to practice a little bit of that as well.
So Jacob, for some reason, he was working at the zip line, and everyone started talking about flight school. He has this friend in Utah, like half the people at the zip line were all talking about going to flight school. It just all like showed up all at once. And at the time, he was kind of stagnating, you know? After quitting school, you're just kind of don't know really what you want to do. And so after everyone came up flight school, he was like, all right, I'm gonna look into this. And when he came home from his discovery flight, you know when somebody's like so excited about something, they start a new language, you're not really sure what they're talking about, but you can tell they're super excited about it. That's kind of what he was doing. He was talking about like dew point and like barometric pressure, and there's something about a rotor, and you have to like slide and not skis. And, you know, you have no idea what they're talking about. But he was just so excited about it that we tried to make it work a lot. We went over finances a lot, and my family's always been very tight on finances. We grew up in the military, so you live on like pebbles and rocks because they crush your hopes and dreams, so you just have to work on what you got. And so we crunched the finances, which was really easy for us, and found out that we could do it. And since he was so excited about it, that it almost felt cruel to not let him do it than to like kind of go through the bare bone finances of letting him do it. You know what I'm talking about? So now we're in flight school, and he dropped $1,100 in one day off flight school needs, and it's been a little stressful, but he's so excited. It's nice to see someone so excited going after what they want to do. You know?
Alright guys, so yeah, that's kind of just the condensed version of from the very first moment that it popped into my head to become a pilot to now I'm starting flight school tomorrow. And we will kind of just keep you updated there, and I'm going to make videos as often as time permits. Part of the thing is I'm going to be doing flight school probably about 2, maybe 3 days a week, but I'm also going to be working full-time, somewhere between 45 and 50 hours as well. So my time for making videos will probably be fairly limited, but I want to do it as best as I can just to give you guys an idea of what it's like to become a pilot. So we're going to go ahead and try and shoot some B-roll. This is a little beach called Pounders, and we're going to get a little closer over there.